Hi, this is Xhyra again, and this is my studio and workshop, I call it, on Xhyra's Place. This is my sandbox where I test things out. If you'll see behind me, there's all kinds of shapes, and I test textures on it, and this is where I made the landmark boards that are scattered throughout the simulation. Hi, this building was the original version of the Xyrograph. Um, I had the idea of putting images that would get me to teleport to the different memories, different artworks um, that I had on Cyrus Place. But this is an old version. I'm using something else now. Um, the Singularity Sanctum, which is a whole simulation in itself in order to do that. And it will take me to the different places that will be the Cosmoscope or my memories. Um, the building, though, on the bottom is separated into the four areas that I feel are important for me to remember: theory and practice, science and spirituality. As I'd hate to say they're dichotomies, but as continuums of certain thoughts, and in the center, all the way down above where I am now, is what's called the non-dual state, which is a state that happens when I make my artwork, the same as flow, where you have those moments that are either elongated or shortened. You don't know what is happening in time, and it's almost like a spiritual experience. So this was the original version of the Cosmoscope. I keep it um, as another memory to remind me of the things that I need to put in the final product, the final the final Cosmoscope. This is called Axis Mundi. It was made from discarded building and construction material, and combined the painting that's in the very center was combined with digital images that I transformed through my creative process, the way that I work, using a layering application, collaging the digital images in with latex, and including drawings, personalization of spiritual symbols that I find important, and it all comes together in what looks like one painting. So there were 38 layers of painting, basically, on both sides. I tend to use the my age. So I was 38 at the time, and I did 38 layers. So the sand, there's a spiritual staff there that I actually have in my studio. The paintings, the painting, one on front and one on back, are composed together, and the aluminum lights that hold the painting up. So Axis Mundi had a combination of cuneiform Greek binary code, the cross, and the Dharma wheel, and the other side had a yin yang and an enlarged version of my handprint. That is my actual handprint, digitally enlarged. And then the sand and stones around it. It's collected from my sister. She's a performance artist, and it was collected from one of the performances that she did, and I keep it still in a jar. So she is my talisman for my own spiritual journey. So the exhibition included other works, was called 21st Century Shaman. The shaman travels a path that connects heaven and earth to bring back knowledge from the other world. The work of the artist today, as in perpetuity, is to express a unique vision while synthesizing the experiences of this world with their connection to the place in all of us that makes up the world spirit. It's a Herculean task that is necessarily layered over the backdrop of industry, the digital age, and globalization. One has to make and maintain a sacred space, either physical or mental, in order to sift through this background noise and find that singular expression or voice. And as a being caught between the ancient and the future, through my work and lifelong study of both religious and creative experience, I attempt a sustained reconnection to ancient spiritual knowledge that has subsequently been dimmed by living and standard education. The expression of the synthesis between the knowledge that is taught to us and the knowledge that is ingrained in us is my method of transcending the subjectivity of these experiences. And so Axis Mundi is actually defined as the world center or the connection between heaven and earth. And so this is my representation of that space you get in to cross from this world to the next world. Hi, so this area, Field of Flowers, is a special memory or moments plural, that I wanted to save. In my working environment, there is a field where the horse was kept, and these flowers grew. It's where I went to energize myself or calm myself. I would just stand in the middle of the field and be still. It was a good place to practice stillness. And so I wanted to make sure I had memory of that, because it fueled my artwork. It fueled calming me, or allowing me to work fully through a problem in the artwork by just having a place to be still. This area is made up entirely of open simulator resources, except for the water. That was one of my own textures on a primitive to create it. This is my relaxing area. I am actually working on a pond next to my studio, the Sanctum. I'm actually working on a piece there, a water feature. But these are all open sim resources. The stones, the mushrooms, the lamp were all created from resources that I got either in open sim creations or freebies from open sim, and I put them all together to. This was before I started working on an art piece. So sometimes I use the virtual world to plan a large piece, and I will actually take you over to the sculpture garden later and show you some of the pieces that I use for sketches. So they're virtual sketches of pieces I am or have already made. This is the sculpture garden and gallery. The gallery is over there a little bit right and front of me. This is the area where I model things. I model out sculptures that I want to make in real life. These I have not made yet. I may have done similar things, but these specific pieces I've not made. So I use the virtual world instead of sketching, because reference to the size of my body is important to me. That's what my aesthetic in sculpture finds necessary. So I'm going to walk over to this one. Now you can see that I reference it has to be a certain height for me. And this is how I make things in the real world. The height is important in reference to my own body. I need to be able to have it reach a certain height or not be too high. The width between the poles is a certain width, like arm's length away from me. And so I find these things important, and so it's necessary for me to model in a virtual world instead of using a sketch, because those don't help me at all. The virtual world is more immersive, and so I can make large things without wasting material by using the virtual world. Say this one here. This one here, you know, sorry about the jump, is also in reference to my body. And I've done this with just poles. So there are little areas that I would have to squeeze through. It's like an exercise in body movement. And then there are areas that I can just whip myself around. And so this is an actual model. It's done in real life with just steel poles stuck in the ground. But I hope to make it with the steel and fiberglass that I like to use for my sculptures. Now, I haven't made most of these, except in some other form, because I've been working on land art. So I will take you over to the area so that you can see some of the things that I've made along the different pathways where I live and work. And it's much better to experience it that way, because I'm not able to lift up a piece of land art and take it to a gallery. And so having it here in the virtual world enables people to experience it in an immersive way instead of just a picture. This work to my right is interment, is what it's called. It's a burial ground for a bird that I found under my kitchen window. He actually ran into the window and just died. And when I went outside, he looked alive. It was whole and quite beautiful. So I I wanted to make a burial space for it. So he's buried underground, and the space is made with pine needles. Um, it's just something that made me sad, and I needed to process the emotion of death. And it is a representation of how it is in my work environment. There's a big oak tree, and I buried the bird and made the the pine needles, put the pine needles around it, and that's it. It was just a tribute to something that was once alive. Behind me, and these are not actually in scale, however you want to say it. The tree is about maybe half a mile away from where this piece is, the personal labyrinth. And this was another process piece for me. It was mostly about the work that I did while making it. It began as a ritual on January the 10th, 2011, after a heavy snow, which is rare here in Georgia. And so I went out every day and walked the spiral path until the snow was melted. And afterwards, I made a spiral out of walnuts and pine cones in the spiral that I had made. I used the walnuts because, they fall all over the place. I used the walnuts because we wanted to see if I stomped them into the ground, if we could get some new trees. And we did. We have about 30 or so new trees. After stomping them in, took some time, and the walnuts grew trees that we could transport to other areas and have them grow. And so this was about the walking and the thinking. Started out as pure white snow, and I made my own personal spiral that I walked every morning, and continued to walk to flatten out the ground, and then made the spiral of walnuts and continued to walk over them. After that, I didn't do any more walking because we wanted the walnuts to grow. And this is called the personal labyrinth. That's it.